Hello, and welcome to another episode of The End of the Search. This one I call it, you either love everything or you love nothing. What do I mean by that? I didn't know if I was going to call this maybe become or be like a mirror, but anyhow, this is the analogy. When you look at a mirror, you can put anything in front of the mirror, and the mirror judges nothing. It simply reflects back to that which is in front of it. You see? Well, in this world of appearances, the world itself is a reflection of the belief that there is a separation. So you could say that the outer world is a reflection of the inner world. There's no outer and there's no inner, but I'm trying to use the language in the best way I can, because in the end, language is a limitation. So, when I'm resting in being by not identifying with the content of the mind, by not believing the thoughts which are the one interpreting everything, when I'm resting in being, I'm resting in love. And I cannot help but to love everything. Not because I personally love something, but because I'm resting in the love that I am, and everything that is perceived is not distorted by the content of the mind. Consequently, all that there is love. You see? But let's say that a mirror, you put an apple, well, all the mirror is going to reflect this apple. It doesn't judge the apple as good or bad, it just sees apple. And then you take the apple out of the way and you put in front of the mirror a rotten banana. Okay? Well, all that the mirror sees is rotten banana. You see? If it judges the banana as rotten, all his world is rotten. See? In the same way, if he judges the apple as good, all his world is good. But here, we're going beyond the good and bad. I believe Rumi used to say that between right and wrong there's a field. I'll meet you there. Well, we're meeting here. We're meeting in that field. And the way we meet in that field is by not believing the content of the mind. That doesn't mean that the conceptual mind cannot be used for practical things. For example, if I ask you, could you please give me that banana or that apple? Well, you will know what objects you will look for and then bring me that apple. And I can even say, there's a banana that is rotten, you may want to throw it away. But there's no condemnation there. It's just a description. You see? So, when we are like this mirror and we look at the world and we do not allow the conceptual, I mean the thoughts, to translate the world, you see, all we're just being, we're being that mirror, we're being that love, and we cannot help but to love everything. See? And I know that the mind can throw all sorts of curveballs, like for example, yeah, but look at this person mistreating animals. What I'm saying is that what you're looking is at an image that is reflecting the belief in separation in you. And when the person is treating animals in a particular way, if anger comes within you, that image was bringing out the anger that is in me, that instead of looking at it in me, I project it outwards and I say, that's the reason why I feel the way I do. But you notice that a mirror doesn't feel angry, doesn't feel anything. A mirror looks at the image that is presented, and because it's being, it doesn't judge. And the mirror and the image may stay there for a while, or the image may go away. But the mirror is immovable, it's untouched. Well, the peace that we're talking about here is that immovable aspect of yourself that cannot be touched by anything. And again, the mind will say, but that means that if I see somebody mistreating an animal, I shouldn't do anything. This is not what we're saying here. Whatever action that needs to be taken place will take place because you're not the one choosing that action. The action that will happen by itself. We don't know if you're someone who likes mistreating animals, maybe you'll be cheering that person. If you're someone whose conditioning is being care and loving for animals, you may find yourself responding in a way that may help for that to be stopped. But once again, even that position can be placed from an egotistical perspective, which eventually can get you into trouble as well. What do I mean by that? Let's say you see an image of somebody mistreating an animal, okay? Hitting it with a baseball bat or something. And you feel hurt. Obviously you feel hurt because you believe you're a separate entity, you believe those images are real, and all these emotions that are coming out. In that moment, if you rest in the love that you are, there's no disturbance. You don't feel disturbed by the images. And from that space, notice how life may move you to do something or maybe not. Why maybe not? Because let's say that the ego's thought system or the egocentric part of me or whatever, the conditioning says, no, you shouldn't do that. And I'm going to go out there to try to supposedly solve the problem. But that person is so blinded by his or her own fear that is expressing it through mistreating that animal. And the moment you get in the way, it hits you with a baseball bat and it kills you. You see? So now you're dead and the animal is going to still be mistreated because that's what the person is doing, because that is a reflection of his own self-hatred. You see? However, when you see the image and you notice you always remember that I am and rest in the I am. Once again, I'm not saying that you may not take some sort of action that may be conducive to stop that. But what I'm saying is that first of all, you have to remember that the world of appearances is a reflection of our inner world. And if I feel separate, the world of appearances is there to show that, to demonstrate that belief. You see? That's why in these videos I'm not telling you what to do or not to do, because that is completely irrelevant. First of all, I'll be reinforcing the believing that you who thinks that is this individual separate from everything. But if you don't believe the content of the mind, you experience life differently. You see? In other words, you still do the same things that people would do, normal people would do, normal for example, right? You would do whatever you do, the only thing is that there's a different mentality from which you would do the things. I love the analogy or the example or the story, whatever you want to call it, when there was people who wants to stoned a prostitute. This is a analogy in the Bible, and I love it because Jesus didn't go ahead and say, hey, you shouldn't do that, stop doing that, or try to stop the thing or using force. He outsmarted all of them. He says, okay, those who have never committed a sin, cast the first stone. Now you could say, well, somebody could have cast the first stone because he has not committed a sin, but remember that this is a community. So you try to cast the first stone and then somebody says, wait a minute, I know what you did, I know what you have done, how can you say that you have no sin? You see, so in a way, everybody goes, okay, well, the truth is, I have committed sin. And the truth is that there's people here who knows that I have committed sin, so I better not do anything. You see, Jesus didn't have to get into an argument, or he just simply... But that is what happens when you're inspired by love. not by fear. If he would have been inspired by fear, then I don't know what might have happened. But again, he was a representation. It's like a channel of the love that we are, reminding us all the time who we truly are. And remember, just for the record, I'm very aware of this. If we're speaking of non-duality, then even those stories did not even exist. Like there's this seeming me is not true, it's not existing, but it appears to be so because thoughts suggests that. And we look at thoughts of the past and we suggest that there is a past. So within the context in which we appear to be, in which it seems as though there's a me speaking to a camera that supposedly maybe other people may hear, within that context, then we bring up stories like Jesus, we could have brought stories of Buddha, we could have bring all kinds of stories. So I am aware of that. But I'm using this story because it's a great analogy to point to what we're speaking of here. So once again, it's not about what to do or not to do. It's about looking inward first and see what's in me that I don't want to see, but it's much easier to see it out there. If I'm feeling anger because someone is doing something, you can call it unfair, I have to look at that anger first. Because that anger is basically in me. If the anger was not there, it wouldn't be there. No, doesn't matter what may happen in the world of appearances, the anger would not be there. From a place of love and equanimity, actions can still be taking place, but not from a place of anger. So when I experience anger, resentment, or so, immediately the way we hide from it is by projecting. You're making me feel this way. You're the reason why I feel the way I do. You see? But when you begin to know who you are, now you see that even those who are doing things that you may call it unfair, they're just as a part of you because you're one with everything. So everyone is a part of you. It's just that within the world of appearances, it appears as if those are identified with fear. That's why they act the way they do. And you can either identify with love, which is what you are always by not believing the content of the mind, and you may see how you may act accordingly. Or if you identify with the same fear, then you may end up joining them without realizing. Either you find yourself fighting against them, or you join them in their crusade of we are doing the right thing and look what the world is doing, but with that anger and the hatred inside that we don't realize is there, that is covered up by the belief that I'm the good one. You see? So the invitation here is to be a mirror. A mirror allows for anything to be reflected on it, but does not judge any of it, and consequently is at peace with what is. Well, the invitation in this video is that you are that peace always, no matter what may be taking place in the world of appearances, no matter what may be reflected on this mirror called you. See? And we can put it to the test right now. You do this in every video. Right now, in spite of what may be taking place in your world of appearances, which I'm not here to discredit it or anything, I'm very respectful to that, but it is an invitation. Right now, if you don't believe anything the thoughts are trying to tell you, this shouldn't be like this, I should be somewhere else, I should have more, I should have this, this is unfair, just anything. The world should not be the way it is. I mean, look at what the governments are doing. And look at my body shouldn't be like this, and I want my family to behave this way. You see, all these thoughts, okay, all of them, right now, right this moment, just, you can observe them, but don't believe, don't engage with them, don't believe them. And what remains? You see that there's no answer. What remains is what is. You see? And that's invitation. These videos are going to be saying the same thing over and over and over again. It doesn't matter, because if I change the information, then it's create confusion. I may use different language and different examples to try to, to see it from different angles, but ultimately it points to this right now, right this moment. What remains when there's no identification with thoughts? Again, I'm not saying they will not be there. I'm simply saying if you just don't identify with them, what remains? And the conceptual mind is trying to find something. What remains? What remains is quiet. What remains is peace. No, don't even answer, because the point here is to notice what already is. You see, this is all we're doing here. Notice what already is. And what already is never perturbed or disturbed by anything. And you are that. You see? But once again, if you're still trying to grab this with the mind from the perspective of a separate individual, this is the subtleness of this. Now we're becoming very subtle, because now it turns from an individual who was very identified to one that now is conscious. No, because there's still a sense of individual. This is why we cannot talk about this. This is not about talking about this. This is about seeing right through, right now. Right this moment, which is the only one that there is anyway, because there's no moments. There's only one, and there's not even a moment, because where it begins and where it ends, you see, is eternal. So right now, just right now, what remains when there's no identification with the content of the mind? See, what remains is what is. And if you really get what I'm saying here, if it settles, in you, you have no problems. You're at peace no matter what. A peace that surpasses all understanding. You're happy, always. In spite of sometimes maybe pain and maybe pleasure, in spite of whatever may be taking place, you're always happy. Not that you're laughing all the time and everything, no. Happy implies peace. And sometimes there's laughter and sometimes there's not. But you remain as you are. And that is all that there is. That's all there is. Just being. And right now you are being, you are beingness. Do you see that? It's being. It's just, what else can I say? And the invitation here is to rest in that. Again, you are not resting in it. It's just, again, limitation of language, but you cannot not be it. You see? And when you rest in being, because that's what you are, where there's no judgment, then all that there is love. Where there's no condemnation, only acceptance, all that there is love. And consequently, you cannot help but to love everything. And well, this is inspiration that came through. I hope it served. And as always, may peace permeate the mind so that love can become evident.